Thank you. Thank you, Miss Tara. That was very helpful. Beautiful. Um, so I'm going to introduce my sister, and she's one of my favorite subjects. So I could talk about her for a very long time. I'm going to try to give you the Reader's Digest condensed version. Jen is my baby sister. I'm one of 3 girls, just like my family. So Jen would be the Becca of the family, the baby. Our sister Michelle would be the Sabrina. And Michelle would be here, but in a week her son is getting married. So we're heading over to Boise for that soon. And then I would be the Amy. So I have a lot of sympathy with her. Jen is somebody who uses her abundance of gifts very well. She is gifted in so many ways. If you are a Jane Austen fan, you would say that she is exceedingly accomplished. If you use the vernacular of kids nowadays, or maybe a couple of weeks ago, she ate with no crumbs, right? She eats with no crumbs. So in other words, she is somebody that is very skilled in a lot of things, and she uses these accomplishments, these skills, these abilities to do a lot of really good things. She is a gifted writer. She's written 4 books. She's finishing her 5th book. Really good book, so I'm going to give a plug for those. She's a seamstress. She made my wedding dress. She hand-beaded her own wedding dress. She more recently made her daughter's wedding dress. She sews costumes. She can make quilts. She can crochet. She's left-handed, and our Nana was left-handed, so she taught her some of these things, and she does a beautiful job with them. She has a beautiful singing voice. If you sit by her, it's just lovely to hear her beautiful voice. Professionally, Jen is very successful. She is a content editor and strategist for Micron Semiconductor Products. Have no idea some of the things that she does. It's very technical. Suffice it to say, she's a technical writer for a very technical company, and she's very skilled at it. She is highly intelligent. She is a deep thinker. If you sit and talk to Jen, you're always going to be a little amazed by something she says. Something will spark and you'll go, wow, never thought of it that way. She is the mother of 2 grown children, both Christians, both dedicated Christians. Tara, who you just saw, is her daughter, and she has an older son, Drew's a prince. And she's been a wife for 30 years. She teaches Bible classes to children. She teaches Bible classes to young women. This is how we got this idea to have her come, because she's been doing it for the Boise Youth Summit that they have every summer for years. And it just fills the classroom with these young women, and they come out energized, they're talking, they're excited, ready to share. She's very, very skilled in that. She's very hospitable. A lot of people end up in her home for some reason or other. She's either going to feed you or house you or whatever, and she's a beautiful home. So she has a lot of accomplishments. But the top number 1 accomplishment that I think of when I think of Jen is her godliness. Jen is my baby sister, but I look up to her. She is also 5 inches taller than I am, so I do literally look up to her. But she is a very, very godly woman. It is very important to her to serve God. And we almost never have a conversation where we're not talking about the Bible, talking about God, talking about something that we're trying to do to be better Christians. So I feel like every conversation I have with her makes me a better person. And when she gets up here and talks, you guys were going to see she just is a remarkable person. So love you, Jen, and I'm really proud of you, and I'm so glad you can be here. So, my sister Jennifer.
Well, good morning, everyone. I don't know how to follow that. I can't help but think you're going to be disappointed no matter what happens after this because of Christy's glowing introduction, but I do appreciate it. I've visited here a couple times in the past, and I always get such a warm welcome and know many of you from over the years in different venues, but I'm very happy to be here. I'm very happy to, at any time, invite any of you all to come over to Boise, Idaho and see us over there. We'd be happy to have you there as well. I'm going to put my little card right here for now, because if I put it here, I'm going to whack it and I'll refer to it some, but maybe that works so you can still see it, so you can refer to who I am. You all had a choice in what you were going to do on a Saturday, and this is not a typical experience, right, on a Saturday morning to come down here like this. And there were other things you could do, so I appreciate you choosing to be here with us this morning. But did you know it's a miracle that you're here? Did you know that? It's a miracle. I'm going to get this going in the right direction. I'm going to skip myself for just a minute. Who are you? Did you know that your parents, with their DNA, have the possibility of conceiving 70 trillion different combinations of children? If your parents could keep conceiving, if that was physically possible, there are 70 trillion different combinations that just your two parents could have conceived. So how unique are you? How individual are you? That's the small number, ladies. Oops, what did I do? I did the thing that you said I would do. The odds of any human being's existence is about 1 in 400 trillion. And that's because it's not just DNA, it's this particular egg meeting this particular sperm on this particular day. It is things like genetic mutations that happen naturally. It is things like environmental issues. There's a whole list here. Some of these things I do not understand. I did not have a chance to look up epigenetics. I bet Tara could tell you what it is. So the odds of you being born are nearly zero. It's closer to 0 than 1. That's how rare you are. So when we break ourselves down into 5 groups here, or we break ourselves down into other things, we're going to go back to who I am. Hang on. I did this backwards. This is me. Some of you guys know the INFP, INFJ, ENTJ, all of those things. I'm an INFP. On the high 5 test that we took together, I'm a believer, a timekeeper, a coach, a philomath, and a problem solver. I took the bigger Gallup Clifton Strength survey at work, and that's the input, context, belief, intellection, and adaptability. These are all ways that we try and group ourselves. Do you guys remember when it just used to be A and B personality? And isn't it funny that it gets a little bit more complex, and then we break it down into groups, and then we have to explode it again? Because you're 1 in 400 trillion. So you could go and stand with your groups of people, and you're still going to say, yeah, but I do that differently than you. I think about those things differently than you. This is my business card right here for Micron. It says on here what Christy told you. I'm a content editor and strategist. I'm an analyst. Those are 2 things back there on that board. I do them professionally. I'm very good at them. They're not on my list. I write books. Back there under motivating is storyteller. I'm good at it. It's not on my list. I'm an empath. I'll explain you more about that later. It is not on my list. A psychologist diagnosed me as an empath, and it's not on my list. We are more complex. So this group, this idea that we're going to lean into our strengths, I hope, because I know there's some cynical people out there, and you looked at these other lists and you were like, wait a minute, I'm that too. I do that all the time. How come it's not on my list? That's what I asked the lady who came to our company when she made this list. I said, a psychologist just told me I'm an empath. And she said, that's not what this list is. Did you guys notice when you took the questions? Does it give you joy to Does it inspire you to? Does it spark interest when you? Everything was worded about what lifts you up. If you don't remember that, go back and take it again. It was talking about what energizes you. I'm an empath. It exhausts me. I'll explain more about that later. It exhausts me. It doesn't make me feel good at all. That's why it's not on my list. I'm an analyst. It's a job. It's work. It is not something that energizes me. But a believer, that energizes me. That's something I love it. I didn't know I was a coach. If you had caught me before I had children, I wouldn't have thought. I'm not a leader. Nobody listens to me. Nobody wants to hear what I have to say. I don't even like talking in front of people. I'm an introvert. This is scary. And then I found out, wow, when somebody responds to something I say, I feel good. I want to talk about it more. And I want to do more of that because I feel like it mattered. And I feel like we both went away a little bit better afterwards. And that's kind of cool. I never would have thought that before. So when you're thinking about whatever lists, this wonderful one we did together, the other ones that you might come up with 30 years down the road, they might have a completely different, brand new one that they're doing. That's great. We're trying to understand each other. We're trying to get to the point where we are not so frustrated when we're not good at the things that our sisters are good at or our husbands are good at. Understanding the way men think, that's a big one. I really feel like if the men did this, if they were even willing, it would be so interesting to see how different they are than us, right? I put my face on here for a very important reason. It's not because I'm vain. It's because I'm trying to appreciate who I am. And that's the part of me that I show you first, is my face. And I haven't always been comfortable with my face, and we can talk about that a little bit later too. I'm trying to get comfortable with it. Slowly. There's a filter there. It's also like faded out. That helps. When you go to the smallest number on this list, if you guys aren't visual or you aren't numerically talented like I am not, you know what's the difference between a billion and a million? A B and an M, right? I mean, I'm a word person. I'm not a math person. So I can't visualize it. I've never seen $1 million. I've never seen $1 billion or $1 trillion. I don't understand. When they start talking those numbers, I'm just like, yeah, a lot more than I've ever seen. So I wanted to show you guys this. That is 1 trillion. And that right there is a 70-story building. So if you took that 1 trillion and you stacked it up, that's 70 trillion. And do you see where you are? That's how unique you are. You are that in a 70-story building, that wide and that tall. And God chose you to exist. So yesterday, I'm going to pick on Kathy a little bit. She said, I'm very common. I have all these traits that other people have too. You go find it. There's a lot of us in this room with these traits. I'm very common. I don't want you to ever think that because you have the same traits as somebody else, Kathy will do it. You know she will. I don't have to do it. Kathy's going to do it. She has the ability to do everything I could do, and she'll do a better job. I'm redundant. I'm not needed. You are needed because God puts you here. And there was zero chance of him putting you here, and he put you here. Mathematically, closer to 0 than to 1. And he chose to put you on this earth. Think about that. I started doing these lessons in Boise to convince young women that their beauty is not to be compared to worldly beauty. When they compare themselves to the young women they see in magazines or on TV, they are looking at things in the wrong way. It is shoveling snow in a snowstorm. I do it every summer, and every summer I'm pleading with them. But guess what? I get an hour with them, and then they go out, and their phones and everything around them is saying, you're not quite good enough. If you buy this, you will be, right? Isn't that what it's all about? If you get this lotion, if you get this nose job, you get this hair color. And guys, I wear makeup. I got my nails done. I am not picking on people for trying to look their best. But God sees things differently. And if you don't like your nose, I'm sorry. But God chose it. because there were 70 trillion different options he could have picked for you. And he picked that one. Christy talked about me being taller than her. I'm taller than everybody I'm related to naturally, except for my beautiful daughter who's finally taller than me. All my women cousins, they're tiny. When we do family pictures, I look like I was photoshopped in badly. I'm just out of scale, right? And, you know, there's a lot of stuff in the world about how a woman should be so tiny that the guy could pick her up and swing her around. And isn't that beauty, to be tiny? I've never been tiny. God made me this way. I couldn't be tiny if I wanted. In fact, if I ever get tiny, it'll probably be because I'm ill. Think about that. The only way I'll ever be tiny is if I'm ill. That's sad. How about if I just get happy with who I am? Right? So that's what I do for the young ladies. We talk about godly beauty. But today we're shifting it and we're talking about our strengths, right? All of you got one of these flowers. And if you want to, you can fill it out while we're talking, or you can just listen and we'll talk about it later. Whenever we do these strength tests, like Kathy pointed out yesterday, only one of those books mentions God. But we have to put God back into it, right? No matter what we're doing. So what's at the center of our lives? God. And that's why I put him at the center of the flower. This flower I originally did in my journal, which I forgot to bring up here. It was kind of like, what's your mind map? Or what's your plan for life? Or what's your goal? And I thought, I don't know. So I went and looked on Pinterest. And I saw some different things. And I thought, you know, what makes sense to this for me is if you start at the middle and you work out. Because whenever we look at our talents or our gifts or our habits or our hobbies, we have to prioritize, right? And if we get them out of whack, we're going to do it wrong. So no matter what you do, no matter who you are, you have got to figure out what your priorities are first. And I chose the fruit of the Spirit. You could choose other scriptures. We've got other ones on the list here. But the first thing in your life is you have to be godly, right? He has to be at the center. And then no matter what you're doing, if you're a deliverer, if you're an empath or a chameleon, you cannot do it without these. You can't say, well, God made me a timekeeper, so I can do it without joy. That's not going to be okay. If you're a Christian, you have to do it this way. You have to be gentle. You have to be faithful. You have to be kind. If you say, I'm not a natural empath, it's nowhere on my list, so I get to be unkind. God wrote this. Man wrote these lists. They're fine. They're great. They're helpful. God wrote this. So do this first. And don't get so caught up in whatever traits or habits or strengths you have that you don't do this. This is hard for me. I work in corporate America. I do not always feel kind. I do not always feel joyful. The people around me are absolute heathens. Absolute heathens. So I have to decide every day to be this around people who don't even care about this, don't even understand this. When I talk about this, they think I'm nuts. They think I'm wacko. But this is what I decided to be, right? My number one is believer. That is the top of my list. Get this turned around right. So the next level on your list, and I'm going to show you mine. The other things on the list I put on here were these traits. Clifton Strengths, Gallup has developed this so that really if you take the test at another time in your life, you should get the same answers. However, that might change if your roles in life change, or if you have a very big traumatic or life-changing event in your life. When Amy was not a mom and she took the test, she might have different answers now that she's a mom. Kathy took it 10 years apart, but your life was probably kind of the same at both sides as far as her roles in life, so they were probably not that different. I told you I never thought of myself as a coach. When I took it in high school, I don't think coach would have been on my list. It is now. Experience and dramatic changes in my life, including parenthood, have changed me. So that next ring around the fruits of the Spirit are things that I think of as being either inextricable parts of me or parts that I've chosen And they're so important that they're now inextricable. So I'm a mother. I did choose to be a mother, but I will never not be a mother. And motherhood is very important. Now, I need to be godly in motherhood, right? And I need to go back to my faithfulness and goodness and my restraint and my loving kindness when I'm a mother. I need to do that whether I'm considering whether I'm an INFP, all the other things. I put some things on there that have nothing to do necessarily with spirituality, like I'm gluten intolerant, but it is something about me I cannot change. And so I put it in there because I want you to think about things about who you are and things you cannot change. I put another thing on there, chronic pain. I have chronic pain. I can't change that. Believe me, I'm trying. I spend a lot of money on doctors trying to figure out what's going on so that I could stop being in chronic pain. But my reality now is I'm in pain every minute of every day. So because I'm in pain, can I stop being faithful? Can I stop being loving or joyful? Do I want to? Yeah, sometimes. It's hard. But God needs to be at the center. I can't stop being a kind, loving mother because of pain. So outside of that, everything out there is maybe something that I'm just passionate about, something I'm good at, something I love doing. I'm an author of books. I'm a Bible student. I love music. I'm a huge reader. I love watching K-dramas. If you want to talk about it, I'll talk about it till the end of time. I'm a sister. That's very important to me. I'm a quilter. I'm a sewer. Because I watch K-dramas, I'm learning Korean. Annyeonghaseyo. That's about as far as I've gotten. I love fashion. Sometimes I'm more dressed up than other people around me. That's my choice. Don't tell me to be more comfortable. I'm comfortable. I'm pretty good. I like it that way. Not that I like to look more dressed up than other people, but if I'm wearing it, I'm comfortable wearing it. It makes me feel good. There's probably too much on my list. For some people, it's too much. For Kathy likes that. 5 things. I'm going to focus on these 5. I know I'm good at them. If I thrive in these 5 things, I know that I can put my life to good purpose and I will be helpful to other people. And so I'm going to focus. And that is fantastic. Because the other thing is in my notes, and apparently I skipped over it. In addition, oh, yeah, that's right. He printed on 2 sides. I told him he could. If you're not convinced that you are unique in terms of the fact that you're 1 in 400 trillion, here's another way to look at it. Your brain has neurological connections, synapses. There are about 100 trillion in your brain, 100 trillion. So let's just compare that. Do you know how many stars there are in the Milky Way galaxy? 200 to 400 billion. So your brain has more neural connections than stars in the Milky Way galaxy. The galaxies in our observable universe, there are 100 billion. Your brain has more connections than the galaxies we know in our observable universe. So are we unique? Yes. And we're not only unique, we're unique in the way we analyze how unique we are, right? So Kathy's brain can look at her list and let's sit her down next to a person who is her twin, has the exact same ones as her. And then let's sit down and say, wow, this person's also married to a farmer who's a preacher. You could get really close and you could get a list of 25 things that they are matched on. And they are still going to be extremely unique people. And maybe Kathy looks at her 5 lists and says, these are the ones that I'm going to focus on, and I'm not going to do anything else because this is what I'm good at. And maybe the other person, like me, says, I can't get rid of the empath part. I'd love to. It's exhausting, but I can't. It's part of who I am. So when you're considering all these things, what is that called? That's called respect for each other. And God talks about that. So as you're going through this entire process, whether you're filling out your flower or you're just thinking it through, did you guys remember a few years ago when they had This, Not That books? It was kind of like eat an apple, not a cantaloupe or whatever, and they had reasons for it. I don't think I ever read one. This, not that. You can choose. You can choose the ones on this side. Isn't it like a breath of fresh air Don't you look at that list and just think, there's nothing there objectionable. There's nothing there that's hard to be around. Hold on, I'm going to cough. I'm getting over pneumonia, and I'm hoping that doesn't happen too much. In 1 John 2, we are commonly known these as the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. I've always had a little bit of difficulty understanding the difference between the lust of the flesh and the lust of the eyes. And so I put them as lust and greed and pride. And so you know that's my interpretation. If you want to go back to the way John wrote it, that's fine. But all of our sins, sorry, all of our sins fall in these categories. So all of the things listed there in Ephesians 4, the bad ones, because obviously we have the other Ephesians 4, they're all part of those sins. And you could incorporate those things into your talents and strengths. Many people have. So we need to be careful. We need to understand the godly way to use them. I apologize. I actually have 3 and an inhaler. I may get there, but I sure appreciate it. So I'm going to go back there for just a minute. I told you I was going to tell you a little bit more about being an empath. The 3 of us, me and my sisters, were raised by a beautiful mother, a rare individual who never said anything mean, ever. Can you imagine living with somebody who never said anything mean? That's the kind of woman she was, extremely kind. Our father, undiagnosed mental illness for our entire lives. Very difficult to live with. Bipolar, narcissistic. He told me many times in my life, he told all 3 of us, he never wanted children. He told me in particular, I had no use for you. You came along when we didn't really need another baby. I didn't have a job. I don't remember where I was when you were born. I looked at you and I thought, I don't need this. This was the home I grew up in. The role I needed to play was take up as little space as possible. Don't be expensive. Don't say anything that could be annoying. Only say things that will make Dad happy. Be quiet, be good, be agreeable, and take up tiny space as I grew bigger and bigger and bigger. Empathy can enrich your lives. If you are a natural empath, the type who feels good after empathizing with other people, it is a strength. Some empaths are created through trauma. A lot of empaths are created with actual physical abuse. It's a safety mechanism. A child who has been abused physically, as soon as they get home, they need to read the room like that. If they don't behave right, they're going to get beaten up. They could be in danger of losing their life. That's the extreme empath. I'm an empath because my dad, with his bipolarness and his narcissisticness, was suicidal. And he often talked about how he was going to kill himself. And he wrote notes about killing himself all the time. And we would find them. Yellow notepads are very triggering to me to this day, because he wrote them on yellow notepads and left them lying around the house for us to find. And when I was in high school, I once called a suicide hotline because I was so afraid my dad was going to kill himself. And they didn't even know what to tell me because they didn't have any sort of protocol for a child calling a suicide hotline for their father. So I hung up and I developed hives all over my body. So I learned to interpret expressions, micro expressions, because I needed to know as soon as I got home whether my dad was in a good mood, a mania, or a bad mood, a depression. Because if he was happy and I set him off and I said something sad and all of a sudden he was mad, what if he killed himself? I worried about this my entire childhood. What if I was sad? What if it was the other thing? I was happy, but he was in his bad mood. I walked around on eggshells my entire life. I didn't know I had value. My dad was obsessed with girls. He had 3 girls. He got a lot of attention for being the father of 3 girls. This definitely fed into his narcissism. He loved little girls. He always talked about little girls. I don't think he knew that he had a type, and they were little girls who had dark skin and smooth complexions, and they were skinny, and they looked healthy, and they looked nothing like me. I was too pale, and I had freckles, and I had red skin in the sun, and I was never pretty. I knew it, because every time he pointed out a pretty little girl, she looked nothing like me. So that's my history of not loving myself very much. Now, I was very blessed in my mother, who did love me unconditionally. Very blessed that even though my dad was that man, he also put a Bible in my hand and said, that's the Word of God. He even said, that's the Word of God. That is above anything anybody tells you, including me. He could have stopped right there. That's a good gift, right? So I get to reconcile those 2 parts of him in my life. But learning to appreciate your own talents when you've had somebody telling you that you have no worth, that's hard stuff. And I bet if we talked long enough, you all have stories. It might not have been your dad, might have been somebody you went to school with. It's amazing how effective words can be. Please don't let somebody else's words overshadow the words of God. Please. His words about who you are, spoken and unspoken. Mathematically, you shouldn't be here. He chose you. He chose everything about you. He could have chose a different nose. He could have put your soul in a body that was born in South Korea, in China, in Outer Mongolia, in Africa, in Russia. You were born here. Or maybe you weren't, wherever you were born. Whatever opportunities have been in front of you, please think about your strengths and your talents and your abilities and what good they can do in the life that God gave you. Please don't dismiss them and say, somebody else will do it so much better than me because I'm worthless. My dad told me. So I'll just live a very small little life, trying not to take up any space, trying not to express myself. But let's say you're like me and you push past all that and you just go, nah, I'm not doing it. I have worth, I have value. And so you go with some of your talents and you start doing things. These are medals I won. I had to go find them. I won these for singing. I'm a good singer. The last time I stood in the middle of a stage singing was probably when I was 17. Because I wanted to be a singer, but I went and talked to somebody about it, and he said, you'll probably have to start out singing in bars. What's my number 1? I'm a believer. So I didn't do that. I sang at a couple weddings. Now I sing a lot at home. I sing in church. It's not quite the same. We went to Wicked a couple nights ago. And she's standing on center stage as she's singing, and I think I can sing that song. If I'd had the right training, I could be doing what she's doing. Kind of makes me sad. But what's your number 1 goal? What is the real reason? But I gave that up. So I said, okay, I'm good at writing. So I wrote books. This is Dream of Me. This is my first book. It took me 13 years to finish writing it. This is my second book, A Place Between Breaths. I wrote it during a really difficult time in my life. My son was diagnosed with autism. I didn't know anybody with autism. I didn't know any children with autism. There was no internet at the time where we had a lot of groups of people to talk about things like this. I was on my own, as is typically the case in these families. My husband and I had difference of opinion about how to deal with it. 75% of couples with autistic children divorce because they can't figure out together how to deal with this child whose mind processes information differently. I wrote this book. The original title was Sacrifices. It's deeply metaphorical about the sacrifices I was making. It won an award. Then I wrote this one when I started to worry that our politics and political climate was going to get so out of control that all of the freedoms that we enjoyed as children were going to be lost to our children. So I wrote a future without our freedoms. And I made it fun so that young people could go, oh, that's interesting, kind of like the Hunger Games, but you mean that could really happen? You mean we're on the way there? Maybe we should do some things. So I wrote that one. It's probably my most popular book. This is the sequel. This is part 3. When I started working for Micron, writing for them, I had to stop. It's hard to do both. Using my talents, splitting them up for the money I started making because my husband had a heart attack. And so I started working because he just could not handle the pressure of supporting our family on his own. He needed me to also work. And guess how much money I've made on all these books? Not enough to pay for one bill a month. I could have made money writing books. All I had to do is add just a little bit of smut. I can't do that. So what has my talents gotten me? I'm bitter. I'm jealous of people who get to write and they make it so quick and they get to do it so fast and they make money at it. And I'm jealous of all those singers who get to sing songs and they sound amazing. They get to go in a studio and they get professionals to make them sound their best and to train them. I never even got to pay for vocal lessons. I was too poor. I was working too many jobs through college to do any of that. So I could give in to all of that, right? Tara, who are my gifts for? They're not for me. It's not about me. I don't know why. I thought if I wrote clean fiction that women could read and just get a little bit of fun in their day, maybe read a good story and not have to deal with the smut or not have to go, hey, I read this good book. Don't read chapter 2. There's a bad part in that. It only has a couple of bad words. I scribbled them out. Or, you know, there's some characters doing some bad stuff, but you know, they're all like that. It's pretty good. I thought, wouldn't it be great to just have fiction out there that people could read? It's not Christian fiction. I couldn't get them published by the Christian community. Bethany House turned my book down. It was too Christian for them. Bethany House turned down my book. It was too Christian. But it's not Calvinist enough. So who are my books for? Well, they're for you, if you want them. They're pretty cheap. I can give them to you if you want. But is that why I wrote them? I kind of thought, what if I could just make a little money? What if I could help my family out by this gift that God gave me? It didn't happen the way I thought. But my gift's not for me. Right now, my gift is to write about the memory and storage products that are in your computer. I can tell you the fastest SSD that you could possibly buy. I'll tell you whether it's Gen 5 or Gen 4. I'll tell you what kind of laptop it fits into. I'll ask you if you know how to overclock your RAM. Do you guys know how to overclock your RAM? Do you know what RAM does? Do you know how to install RAM in your computer? It pays really well, my job. It was like sliding downhill to get this position. Writing these books is climbing a mountain. That's what it is. And I don't know what's up there. And I'm compelled to do it. And I'm going to finish that book. It's 85% done, and I can't even open my computer to write it because I'm so exhausted when I get home. I'm writing about the latest DDR5 memory. I don't know exactly where my gifts are going to take me. I really don't. But see her, she got to the top. And all of me is involved because God created all of me, every part. So I need to engage it and I need to figure it out. And if I'm not figuring it out, I need to be patient and wait for God to help me. but I do not cast aside my gifts. I do not say somebody else can do it. I do not say, I'll just add a little smut. It's okay. Everybody will understand, right? Maybe I want to get away with it. Maybe I use a pseudonym. Just make a little money on the side, right? I could do it. All of you. 1 Corinthians 12 talks about the hand saying, I cannot say to the foot, I don't need you. The eye can't say to the ear, I don't need you. I don't know what your talents are, but the person sitting next to you has different ones, and you guys might overlap, but you're supposed to be working together. This young lady was not able to climb this mountain without more than one thing. She had to have her eyes and her ears. She had to have her lungs. She had to have her feet. We don't work well without each other. And unfortunately, what we often do because of jealousy, because our daddy told us we didn't belong in this world, we look at the person next to us and go, I hate her. She's tiny and brown and cute, and you could lift her with your pinky, and she's singing, and she got voice lessons and I didn't, so I hate her. It's not her fault. I need to love her and love that she got an opportunity I didn't, because my gifts aren't for me. They're for us. They're for God. They're for his love, and they're for his Christ who died for us. And they're for all the goods we can do for each other in little ways. You know, of all the gifts I have and everything I could possibly do, maybe texting somebody, are you okay? I didn't see you on Sunday, is more important than having a beautiful singing voice. Maybe making a cake and taking it to somebody on their birthday because you know their family just doesn't pay attention to stuff like that. Maybe that's more important than writing my next chapter. We need to think about that. We need to think about how they all interact. And please, as you're doing this, show grace and love to yourself. God chose you. You're unique. You shouldn't have even existed mathematically. His grace is bigger than all of it. It's bigger than the universe. It's bigger than everything. He knew when he put you on this earth that you were going to make mistakes and that you weren't going to do it perfectly. And sometimes you were going to lean into laziness or lean into fear or lean into doubt. Don't sit there. Don't live there. But if you step off the trail, forgive yourself and get back on it. And find help. Find someone who's strong enough to help you get back on it if you need that help. That's me. I'm learning to love myself more and more every day. I'm learning to just accept who I am while always trying to be better. And I'm learning where my talents are most needed. And this is where they're most needed. This is my daughter's journal. She sent it to me the other day. This is her fervent, specific prayer for mom's healing, because mom has chronic pain. My biggest gift is my children and the fact that they're Christians. And if you have Christian children, you know what I mean. And if you don't have Christian children, you know what I mean. Everything we can possibly do to influence other people to a life of godliness, please make that the priority of your gift. It's the most important thing you can do. And I will look back and it doesn't matter that I didn't sing on Broadway. And it doesn't matter that my books have never been bestsellers. It does matter that I influenced my children to choose to be godly. And that's what I hope to do with everybody I come in contact with. So, Kathy, did I get us to the pinnacle? Terry is going to take off from here and tell us what we're going to do now that we got all this talent and we know what to do with it and we know why we're doing it and we know the reason for it. And she's going to take us to the next level. So I appreciate all of your time this morning. I appreciate your attention. And I would love to chat with all of you individually or collectively more, as much as you like about this. And I think, Christy, you coming back up first? All right, thank you all.
Told you she's impressive. So a couple of notes. So after this, we've got lunch at Amanda Brainerd's, and we've got a couple of notes. One is if people can carpool, that would be very helpful.